lot of things I didn't know in my early entrepreneurial years. And if I had known that, I'd have chosen my business partners differently. 43 different reasons why any business fails.
Would you say startup is more 6 figures, and then growth is more getting to 7 figures, and then scales will be 7 to 8 figures and beyond?
And beyond, absolutely, yeah. For me, when I decided that my God-given purpose on this planet is to inspire, educate and empower people to live a life of joy, courage, passion and purpose, the more I do that, the more alive I feel. I've been there, I sat there in the car one evening, 5 minutes from home, having this breakdown and thinking I'm such a failure.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Sound of Accra Podcast. If this is your first time listening, welcome. This is the show where we speak with top Ghanaian entrepreneurs, founders and creatives worldwide with the aim of leaving you behind with meaningful takeaways that you can apply to your life, business and career. For today's show notes, just some housekeeping. I'd like you to know that you can head over to thesoundofaccra.com/Mac. That's thesoundofaccra.com/Mac. So that's MAC, just like a MacBook or MacBook, Mac Mini or whatever device that you use. And also, whilst you're here, hit the like button, leave a comment below if you're watching YouTube. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or your favorite podcast player, a 5-star review is very much appreciated. Let us know what you think of this episode. I would like to welcome our guest onto the show, Attram.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So he is a very experienced business coach. He's also a mentor and a public speaker. You're going to learn a lot more about what he does. And yeah, you guys are really in for a treat. Very, very special guest. Mac, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My absolute pleasure. Again, Thank you for having me after that. Yeah.
So I think we met at Stork in Mayfair for one of the Ghanaian Londoners. In terms of it was like a Ghanaian Independence Day event.
Right, yes.
I think maybe 2-3 years ago. And I remember we had a discussion and I did say that I'll bring you on the podcast.
You did.
But then when I decided to switch how we do things, because now we're going by themes rather than just getting the best guests we can on wealth creation, business management, and also personal finance. One of the first names that came into my mind was Mac. It was you. I see what you do on LinkedIn. You go live on LinkedIn all the time, and I see the events that you're speaking at around the world. It's so inspiring what you're doing, honestly. Just in case for the audience that don't really know you, like I know you, could you just give maybe like a 62-minute pitch about what you do?
62 seconds. 60 seconds,
like an elevator pitch.
Sure, yeah. I've been an entrepreneur for over 24 years now.
Wow.
My wife and I, we own different businesses around real estate, property, mostly multi-million-pounds of developments around London. And but my passion is my education business. I love my purpose I've found many years ago is to educate people, especially small business owners, to grow their business, grow their wealth. So in the last nearly 2 decades now, I've trained and coached over 200,000 people in over 50 countries that I've visited and actually trained them to do just that. So it's a pleasure to be able to be on your podcast as well and share the message.
Oh, the pleasure's mine. It's an honor to have you in the show. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people, I must admit.
Yeah.
I must admit, that's a lot of people. Wow. I don't know how you have the energy to do that. But anyway, we're going to talk about that.
Sure.
So I know you were born in Ghana, but you were raised in the UK, is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. I was born in Ghana, and my dad had an opportunity to come to the UK to work, and he did. He picked that up and ran. My mum joined him as well. So I joined them. Well, I came to the UK around the age of 8, 9.
Okay.
And so went to school here, studied here, got my businesses here,
Yeah. Wow. Okay, cool. So 8, 9 still is a young age. It's a fairly young age. And you probably don't remember anything too much about what happened in Ghana.
Oh, yeah, I do remember. Yeah. Because I went to school, my early years was there. I lived with my grandmother for several years. When she was getting older, then we lived with my uncle. So, I still remember, and my uncle's still there. So so I remember the early days in Ghana, and education system was kind of rough. I mean, the teacher would be walking around with a ruler, so you would get the stick if things weren't done the right way. So I do remember it.
Wow, that's a good memory. It's such a long time ago, because you mentioned now you've been an entrepreneur for over 24 years. That's quite some time. Okay, so just want to double tap on that, Mac. You've been an entrepreneur for 24 years. And I've read some of your story that you've had years of challenges and failures in terms of running your own businesses.
Sure.
And it's got to a point where you now have the formula, like it's clicked, something's clicked, and now you know what it takes to maybe run or get a business to maybe 6, 7, 8 figures.
Yeah.
Right. Could you tell us more about your story in terms of, you know, how you are going through these challenges and failures, and then what was the light bulb moment, if you will, that got you there?
Yeah, no problem at all. So what happened was after graduating, I worked for three corporations, and every company I worked for, the first one took me as a graduate trainee, and I stayed with them for 7 years. I was getting this itchy feet, and then moved along, and it lasted 2 years in the next one. And then I thought, well, I'm not happy here. I don't feel fulfilled. So I thought, it must be the company. So I left. And then that last company was like a year. Then I realized it's not actually the company, it's me. And I was just wanting to do my own thing. So I started a little computer company, IT company. We used to do computer installations and computer setups, e-commerce, you know, like it became a one-stop shop, because in the beginning I just was looking for ways of making money. So the client would say, can you set up a website? No problem, I'll find someone. We'll do the website, we'll do the computer installations. And then after a while, the business was growing, it was getting hectic. Yeah. I had 2 business partners who joined me. And this is where my trouble really, really started. And after a couple of years, something was telling me something wasn't right. I just couldn't put my finger on it. It's just their behavior and this kind of stuff. And one day they just disappeared. I'm calling them, they're not answering. They've just totally disappeared and left me in a lurch. Yeah. Financially, it's a mess. Now I'm over 100 grand in debt, and now $100,000 in debt, struggling, trying to figure out all these payments I need to make to creditors. So I'm borrowing money on credit cards, on loans, and it was just a mess. And there was a lot of things I didn't know in my early entrepreneurial years. And if I had known that, I'd have chosen my business partners differently. I'd have set up my business in a different way. And so it came to a crunch. I mean, you know, London, my office was in North London, Enfield area, and I live in West London. Yeah. So that's an hour and a half. And those days, I didn't say earlier on, but I've been married now for 24 and a half years.
Congratulations.
And the mess that was happening was a time when my wife was pregnant with our second child. And a few short years had gone by where I was hardly at home. Because I was working hard trying to make this business work. Yeah. And it came to a crunch where one day driving back, 5 minutes from home, I stopped in this parking lot in the shopping centre car park, just sat there, hands on the wheel, just feeling sorry for myself, sobbing and feeling like I was such a failure that, you know, with all my years of study and starting my business, I'm not a bad guy, but I'm working all these hours, something I don't know. And that evening when I finally got home, it was all a blur. But all I could remember was that I started thinking, how do successful people become successful? Because I'm doing everything I can, but something's not working. And I started realizing I've got to study this. So I started reading books, buying books and reading books on wealth, success, business, all these, as much as I could get. I started going to workshops and seminars. So the turning point was some of these seminars started turning my mind around in terms of how to really approach business and life and success. And so the debt I'd got into, within a couple of years, I'd fixed my business. I turned around that business. I eventually sold it. But prior to that, I started to invest in real estate property. And as I started, in those days, it was investing in real estate with no money down.
Yeah. The entry level the barrier to entry was lower, was it?
It was very low. I mean, imagine some of the seminars I went to where you can learn how to invest in real estate property and acquire these properties with none of your own money. And I'm thinking, I'm broke, I'm struggling. And so I learned that strategy, and my wife and I started doing that quite well.
Fantastic.
And, you know, I'm at the age of 54 now, and at the age of 36, we were totally financially free through the real estate and through the business I had sold. So that's when I realized that. So I took about a year out at that point, and I started trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do? We got a real estate business, it's growing, it's going well, that's all good. But what am I supposed to be doing? I realized my God-given talent is really helping people. So I started helping, people ask me to help with their business. And so I'll do that one-on-one, and then it became 1 to 10, 1 to 30 in London. Then I'll go around the UK, speak to groups of hundreds, and eventually became speak to groups of thousands around the world. And so cut a long story short, during that period that I took the time off, I started really thinking about what I'm supposed to do. And I realized my God-given mission on this planet is to educate, inspire, and empower people to live a life of joy, courage, passion, and purpose. That led me to travel around the world. That led me to write 4 best-selling books. That led me to set up the podcast that I do. And I just so passionate and purposeful in terms of helping people to live the life that they want.
Wow. It's a remarkable story, Mac. Really inspiring. And I think what you went through, that probably led to writing Face It and Fix It, didn't it?
Absolutely.
Because you had to face that challenge. You had to fix what is it about what area of my business is not working, that's not allowing me to generate the revenue I need to generate. I'm putting all these hours and I'm working hard. Is it marketing? Is it sales? Is it operations? Like, what is it? And then you fixed it, and now it's working. Wow. We'll leave a link to all of Mac's books that you guys can purchase on Amazon and other outlets, his website. Hey, Global Ghanaian citizens, I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's just a very quick announcement. For today's episode offer, I'd like you to check the link in the description below. This is a special offer that we managed to secure in partnership with one of our guests or one of our partners. So please check the link in the description below for today's episode offer. You'll be able to take advantage of what we have in store for you today. Face It, Fix It, I'm sure it talks a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Face It and Fix It, when I wrote that, at that time I'd researched why do businesses fail. And don't forget, at that time I was already training and coaching people in business, and asked me the same questions. And because I had my own my failures and near collapse in my business, I knew where I went wrong. But I realized through my research, there was 43 different reasons why any business fails. Wow. 43 different reasons. And, I remember I published a digital book on that. And then later on, I published the full book, and so within the book, I teach people what they are, and also how to, once you identify what's going on with you, how to turn that around. And I give case studies in there as well, companies that were almost at failure, turned around, and now real big companies.
That's remarkable. That's remarkable. I've had an experience of turning a business around, but nothing compared to what you've done. I mean, I read that, that you helped someone triple their revenue from $15 million to $45 million, which is remarkable. It just shows the level that you've got to. And I mean, there's no wonder that you're sharing stages with the likes of Robert Kiyosaki, Tony Robbins. I think I've seen you do some work with Success Resources. This is the level that you're at. It's just absolutely remarkable.
Thank you.
Okay, so I want us to kind of turn our attention to, I just mentioned you tripling someone's revenue for 15 to 45 minutes. So you faced it, fixed it. You now know how to kind of help a business generate revenue and solve their problems. Let's talk about what people need to do to double their revenue. Is there like a system? Is a strategy? Talk us through that. Yeah,
if you want to double your revenue, you have to understand that, or even triple your revenue, which we've helped our clients do. You cannot play with a self-employed mentality. So as Robert Kiyosaki, I've done 14 international tours around the world. He talks in his cash flow quadrant book, which really changed my mindset around business. He talks about 4 mindsets in business. The employee mindset, exchanging time for money. I turn up, you pay me. The self-employed mindset, if it has to happen, it has to be me. I'll be the business owner mindset, which is I'm going to leverage systems, I'm going to leverage other people to get it done. So whether I'm there or not, it still happens. The investor mindset, I want a return on my investment. And so if you want to double your revenue, depending on what level you are. So for example, our client who tripled her revenue from $15 million a year to $45 million a year, I had to get her to start thinking differently. And in most cases, it's like the way you are set up and structured would either create a limitation or a ceiling in terms of where you can go. And we work with clients from, just doing a few $100,000 a year to, multiple millions. And so if you get this, so the mindset is a critical thing, first of all. Once you understand the mindset, then it's like, then thinking about what strategy are we going to use to get to where we want to go.
Yeah.
So it's three key things: the mindset, the strategy, and then the action, the implementation of taking that. So with Princip, who the company grew by 3 times, once she understood that, she started to delegate a lot more, not so attached to certain things. And so as a CEO, I said, don't get involved in a lot of these other things, but your job is to strategize in terms of strategic vision, where the company is going, find the right talent, find the right partnerships, make sure things are set up the right way. So so mindset, and then the strategy is like, so how are we going to get there? So how are we going to attract the right type of clients? And then how do we close them? So we put a system together in terms of lead generation, in terms of how we're going to get these leads. And then she got involved in getting her salespeople trained. So if you're trained and using a script, the script then creates consistency. Not like a robot, but it's just like, make sure we cover this. So we can create consistency. And so the action part, the third part, is for all our clients, we set up what's called a dashboard. And that dashboard, if you worked in sales before, it's like, what are the numbers? Let's look at the numbers, because the numbers don't lie.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
It's just lifeblood of the business.
Exactly. And for most small business owners, especially self-employed, they don't really look at the numbers. They just do the same thing over and over and over again. But when we get them on a dashboard, and where we're saying, okay, every day you've got to report your numbers in terms of how many, whatever business is in, whatever business you're in, but looking at the different activities, because you're now focused on that, there's less distractions. And guess what? The more you focus on the key things that actually turn the wheel, money comes out the other end.
Yeah.
So we create bespoke dashboards, and help our clients just monitor that, calibrate that, tweak, and go. That's
brilliant, because it could vary for different businesses, but depending on the business, it could be maybe, are you making enough cold calls? Is it the emails you're sending out? Is it the DMs that you're sending on LinkedIn? Whatever the metric is. Yeah,
definitely. All of that. Yeah. Exactly. Depending on the business. And if it's a property business, how many viewings did we have? It's all this kind of stuff. And it's important, because once you can understand what's working, what's not working, what conversions are at certain places, then you can establish whether it's actually, do we need to pump more money into marketing, get more leads? Do we need to actually, if it's a sales issue, do we need to get the salespeople trained in a different way, because the conversions are, and whenever we've got them to improve in terms of the script or adjust it, we see percentages going up.
Wow.
Right. So the dashboard is so critical. Because I can speak to a client. They can tell me all the stories they want, right? And they'll say this, that, and this. And I say, just let's look at the numbers. And when we start looking at numbers day by day, week by week, there is a trend. Then we can make key decisions based on the numbers, not on our feelings. Right? Yeah.
Because I think it's easy that people can get emotional about, their business or whatever it is that they're doing. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that it's more rationale than emotions.
Definitely.
It really is.
Definitely.
Okay. Wow. So, the first step is dealing with the mindset, and then it's looking at the strategy, and then it's setting up a dashboard so that they can track and see their various activities and see what's, how they're performing. And then sometimes someone like yourself will come in and you maybe make tweaks based on what isn't working properly, and then you kind of make those adjustments to kind of boost their business in certain areas.
And when we talk about mindset, I really want to iterate on this, because reason why that's important, sometimes the business owner would tell me that, the reason why we're not performing, the reason why our sales are not where they need to be, or we're not growing, is because A, B, or C. And I say to them, I challenge them when I say, are there any other companies in your industry that are doing well? They'll say, this company. So what's the difference? What are they doing? And often it's the business owner themselves. It's not the industry. It's not the staff. It's the way the business owner, the founder, or whoever it is, the CEO, is thinking about the situation. It's the way they're approaching the situation. And maybe they've done it all like that for so many years. That's what they know. So someone like me or one of my coaches coming in, looking at it, we're not attached to it. We're not emotional to it. So can we make those changes? We can suggest, and then we start helping them to tweak all of that.
That's incredible. Wow. So it really varies from case to case.
Absolutely.
Is there an example that you have of a client, Mac, or even maybe you've gone to an event and you've maybe it's a mastermind, maybe it's an accelerator, maybe it's just a conference, either something you've spoken at. Is there any kind of particular client or person that you've worked with that literally whatever help you've given them is completely transformed, like gone from 0 to like 100?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's many of those clients. So we had a client, Anna, who came to us. She was doing about 200,000.
Yeah.
Now she's doing like 1.2 million. The fact is, when you listen to her testimonial, she said, "Oh, when Mac's team came in, they told us to stop doing this, and this. Told us to put a salesperson in, and so instead of the CEO selling, get a salesperson in. They told us to do this, and so when they did that, and they started tracking what was happening. Now, and the main challenge she had was that she was working so hard that she's not seeing much of her children. She's working so hard that she's not getting enough time with her husband. And so he's complaining. So how do you deal with that? And so by structuring things the right way and allowing your team members to do, and delegating, allowing them to do what they need to do without necessarily micromanaging. Again, that's where the mindset comes in. Because some people are so attached, they got to know every little bit. And nobody, Adrian, would do it as good as you. Nobody. But if you can train them, coach them, and get them to at least doing at least 70%, 80%, 90%. And if there will be errors, but can you then coach them to improve over time? Just like riding a bike, right? Yeah. Riding a bicycle, there's going to be mistakes. You're going to fall down a few times until you start. So you've got to understand, when you bring people in, hire them on attitude. In other words, do they have the right attitude that they are willing to learn, rather than say, this is how I've always done it, because that's not going to help your business. If they have the right attitude and you can show them your systems and they can follow it, makes your life much easier.
Wow. That's remarkable right there. Now, you've worked with hundreds and thousands of people, right?
Yeah.
In these kind of situations, or maybe maybe they're doing fine, they just want to increase whatever revenue they have. Okay. Could you tell me, what is the trend? What's the pattern you're seeing here with most of the people that you're working with? With most of these people that you're working with, what's the trends? Is it usually a sales issue? Is it usually marketing? Is it operations? Is it mindset? What's the main thing that you see? Yeah,
there people come to us, and our coaches are trained in different areas, but typically there is the employee or professional who says, I want to start a business, but I don't want to start. I want to start, but I don't want to start. They've got the idea. Yeah. So we've got coaches who will work with them to actually establish what that business can be, create the right business model, and actually hold their hands over a period of time to actually instigate that and launch that business. Mm-hmm. So we have that type of situation. Then we have people who are on the cusp of the growth stage. Yeah. In other words, the business is doing okay, but it's the marketing is not right, the sales is not right, so growth is not happening. Yeah. And so we have a lot of clients like that, where we get them to, again, follow the strategy we just mentioned. And then we have clients who are just ready to scale. So the one who went from 15 million to 45 million is just like, let's get some critical things in place, and then when she just pressed the button, it just happened. Because people say to me, what's the difference between growth and scale? So we've got clients who are at the startup stage. We've got growth and then scale. Yeah. What's the difference between growth and scale? Growth is where you are maybe have to put money in. Yeah. You may have to increase your expenses in order to increase the leads that coming in and the sales that you close. Mm-hmm. But at some point, if that's working, you can then scale. In other words, you've got your foundation in place, everything's in place. And then at the scale stage, it's about growing without necessarily growing at the same scale, same level of your expenses. At the growth stage, the expenses will grow, and hopefully that will take the sales revenue up. Mm-hmm. But at the scale stage, right, you're not, the foundation's in place now, and you can just scale at a level where your expenses don't follow.
It's like cruise control, essentially.
Absolutely. Absolutely, cruise control, because everything's in place. Yeah. But people need to understand that. Are you at the startup phase? Are you at the growth stage? Or are you the scale stage? Yeah. And we work with clients in these areas.
So those are the three main stages that you would say exists in businesses. So it's startup, growth, and then scale.
Yeah.
So would you say startup is more 6 figures, scale is more 6 to 7, and then sorry, would you say startup is more 6 to 7, six figures, and then growth is more getting to 7 figures, and then scale is probably 7 to 8 figures and beyond?
And beyond, absolutely, absolutely. So look, you could have lots of startups who, and especially in the tech space, don't make any money.
Yeah.
So sometimes I say startup is just like learn to figure out a way to make your first dollar.
Yeah.
You can make your first dollar, your first pound, or your first city, whatever it is. Now you're in business.
Yeah.
Right. So at this stage, okay, now you know how you got that client.
Yeah.
Let's multiply that and do more. Let's offer more, a better way of doing it. And so, you can grow to, 5-6 figures. At a growth stage, definitely 7 figures, heading towards 8 figures. At this scale stage, it's just, you're talking 10 million, 100 million, billion, unicorn.
Incredible. What would you say? Okay, going back to those 3 stages: startup, growth, and scale. What would you say? What would you say are the main? Just like if you can name 1 or 2 things that helps them get to the next level. So from startup to growth, and from growth to scale. What are maybe the main things that you say is missing? Is it systems? Is it infrastructure? Is it team, resources? Like what is it exactly? Yeah.
So the startup phase, we know, you're in.
Yeah.
You started up. You got it. So you are going to be involved in every area of that business.
Yes.
Until you start thinking about, okay, I'm working too hard. Let me delegate some. Let me get a virtual assistant in. Let me get a part-timer in. Let me get someone flexible in.
Yeah.
And as you grow, you'll have more staff. At the growth stage is the bit I told you about, which is the strategy, the mindset, the strategy, and the implementation, the action. So that is the growth and the scale is a mindset, mostly mindset, because you can't grow and scale unless you are willing to do things differently. Because the way you started up is not the way you're going to grow. And some entrepreneurs are very good at starting, but they're not good at growing. So at some stage, you've got to realize, actually, at this growth stage, it means that I've got to police more, I've got to manage more, I've got to put policies in place. I'm not that guy. I'm not that girl. So let me get a general manager in. Let me get a CEO in who loves doing all that, who loves the spreadsheets, who can, so some are good at starting, but they're not good at growing. And sometimes when you get to the growth, you've done the growth stage, maybe that person or you are not the person to scale it. Right? Because we have different energies, we have different abilities. And so you got to know when to step off the gas and get someone else into who can utilize their skills. And at a scale stage, it may be a level that you've never ever seen. Yeah. You've never ever been there.
Yeah.
And so can you get someone in who can do that? And as business owners, often we don't want to let go of our baby. So be clear, where is it you want to go? What is it you're trying to create? And you don't have to be the one to do it all, but you can oversee it.
Yeah. Remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. I think those are really simple but effective things that people need to think about to get to those various stages. Your events look very interesting, Mac. I mean, it must be high energy being in events where you're speaking to maybe hundreds of thousands of people at a time. Has there been anyone in the audience that maybe in particularly surprised you? So you go to so many of these events. I mean, where have you just flown in from?
From Malaysia. I did
an event over there?
I did an event in Philippines. Then I flew over to Malaysia. Did a 3-day event in Malaysia. Yeah.
Okay, and you're teaching probably similar principles, or maybe something slightly different.
Yeah, the same thing. Same thing. Same countries.
Mass scale. Right?
Yeah.
Has there been any? You've been to so many events like this, speaking to people. Has there been anyone interesting in the audience? Maybe they came up to you, or maybe they've implemented something from what you've taught, and then you've been like completely blown away. Do you have any other story?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I'm teaching wealth creation principles, or I'm teaching business principles, and sometimes I'm teaching for 3 days. They're not short days either. And maybe by the second day, someone will say, look, you know what you talked about yesterday? I already called the office, we've implemented it, and they've told me by day 2 this has happened. Right? So I get those things all the time. But most things, but where I get a lot of fulfillment is if someone's sat in the room for a day with me or 2 days and they're learning and they're implementing, and they just say, and they come to the stage and say, thank you, you just blow my mind. It's just, if it wasn't for you, I'd still be thinking that way, and that way is not helping me. Yeah. And so I feel more motivated. I feel more engaged. I'll give you an example. Mm-hmm. We ran an event in Morocco. Yeah. And this couple came along, and they said, at the end of that event, they said to Mac, thank you. We're about to shut the business down. Wow. If it wasn't for this training, we'd have shut the business down. You've given us so much clarity, so much focus. We know what to work on now. We know the next steps, which we weren't clear on. We thought it was us, but we realized that, there's business evolves. And if you don't evolve, and I'll say this as well, your business and your wealth can only grow to the extent that you grow. Mm. I'll say that again in case I learned that from my mentor. Your business and your wealth can only grow to the extent that you grow. So if you don't grow yourself, in other words, if you do not improve, well, how do you expect your business to improve? It's a mirror of you.
It's true.
Right? So that's why I love trainings. I love coaching people, just helping them to improve. And a lot of it is about self-awareness and knowing what your limitations are and knowing what kind of decisions you need to make in order to move forward.
Brilliant. So would you say from this conversation so far, Mac, maybe some of the main blockers to doubling your revenue or tripling your revenue in your case? I mean, you're just like, forget double, we're going to triple, 10x your revenue. Would you say so far it's mindset, clarity, and then also what you just talked about is the just having the attitude of continuous improvement, of self-development, of self-improvement, of self-help?
Yeah, definitely. We've got a model called the 5 fundamentals of success. Yeah. And the 5 fundamentals of success, if I can start with number 1, is this. If you want to succeed at anything, one thing I learned years ago when I was struggling and things weren't going right for me, I sat in the audience with a chap called Les Brown. Now, Les Brown, we're friends now, and we've traveled around the world together. But one of the things he said, he goes, if you want success, you've got to be hungry. And he bellowed it from his stomach. I thought, man. And at that point, I read books about perseverance. I had read books about resilience. I've read books about desire and passion and all the rest of it. And that hit me as like, hungry. Hungry means not just, it's okay, but when you want it as badly as you need to eat something, you haven't eaten, or like Eric Thomas says, when you want it as bad as you want to breathe, that every day you're hungry to achieve this thing. Yeah. And number 2, once you have that hunger, then it's a case of getting clarity. Okay, where are we going? What is it we're trying to achieve? And so when we work with our clients, we often talk about vision and mission, getting them really clear. Where are we going over the next 3 to 5 years? So getting that absolute clarity, or even if it's just this year or this month, what's the clarity? Getting that clarity so we know what we're firing for. Once you have that level of clarity, then it's a case of focusing. You're going to have focus, like that's why we put the dashboard in there. Now we've got that level of clarity. These activities are what's going to hit the milestones, the goals. So now focus on these every day, every week. Otherwise, when we live in a world of distractions, distractions constantly, right? So if you can focus on that, the next bit is what I call, so focus. The next bit is action. So actions every day, action every day, every week. And the last thing is discipline. And most people are ill-disciplined. Yeah. When my business wasn't going so well, I didn't have that level of discipline I needed. And things were falling apart. And if you're not disciplined, this is where you must get a coach. This is where you must get, and a coach and a mentor are 2 different things. A coach will really hold you accountable. A mentor will say, yeah, I will do this, I'll do that. But a coach will hold you accountable. And that's what our company, Mindspace Coaching, does. With the right level of discipline, you'll start moving the right way. Yeah. And the way, and in a lot of countries now, they don't really know what a coach is. And they think it's a football coach or athletics coach, which is similar, but this is for business. This is for life. So imagine you had if you wanted to win the Olympic gold medal, you can't do that on your own. You think you can, but you can train. Imagine 100 meters, Usain Bolt, you've got to run against him, right? And Usain Bolt wasn't disciplined.
Really?
He was not disciplined. It was like a carrot and stick from his coaches saying, look, if you don't show up and start training, you're going to lose against whichever guy, whoever his big competitor was at the time. And then he'll show up 5:30, 6 o'clock, start training. Why? Because the coach is on his back. So if you have a business, you want to try and grow that business. Yeah, can you figure it out yourself? Yeah, you can. But do you want to speed that up? Do you want to, because you're so close to it, sometimes you'll be doing things in a certain way, thinking, yeah, that's okay, and that's average. But if you had a coach who's on your back and supporting you, holding you accountable, showing you the right way, you're going to get there much faster and easier.
Absolutely. Like, there's no question why you want to succeed as long as the right things, the right foundations are in place.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think with someone like Usain Bolt and the field of athletics, I think it's fine margins to where you win things.
Oh, yeah.
So every little thing, every little input counts for that massive output.
Definitely. And
going on to discipline, I'm going to double tap on discipline, Mac. Okay, I know you're Taekwondo. You got a 6-dan black belt.
Yeah, 6-dan black belt, former UK champion.
I wouldn't want to get in trouble with you, honestly. I did Taekwondo for about 2 years. I got to from white to yellow belt. That's nothing compared to you. But there's one thing that I remember learning from Taekwondo was, I think, the pillars or the fundamentals. So it was having
the tenets of Taekwondo.
The tenets of Taekwondo, like indomitable spirit and things like that. How does that translate to like business and getting to 6, 7, 8 figures upwards and doubling your revenue, of course? It's really
Adrian, when I was struggling in business, things weren't going right. The underlying thing is that I was practicing Taekwondo on my own, or I didn't have much time. So, but for over the last 42, 43 years, I've been practicing some form of martial arts. And in the last 25, 26 years, it's been Taekwondo. And when things weren't going right, I was still practicing Taekwondo. For me, it was a way, it's an outlet. It was a lifestyle. It became the way I did things. And I started to think, why was I excelling in martial arts? London judo champion, black belt in judo, did karate, did Thai boxing, did all these. Why was I excelling there and not in my business, not in my relationship, not in my money, not in my wealth? And I realized that I had no instructor, no sensei, no coach. I was trying to figure out on my own.
Makes sense.
And you know what it's like. You turn up in the martial arts dojo or dojang, as we call it. You've got to be ready, right? You get kicked in the face because you're not focused and you're not paying attention. That'll soon get you alert.
I broke my leg for a few weeks, actually.
You broke your what?
I almost broke my leg for
your leg for a few. Yeah. So you've got to. So it taught me a level of discipline, I think, that I've taken into all areas of my life, which has helped. Once I really understood that, now I have coaches who I have paid to coach me in different areas of my life, because I know, left to my own devices, I may just go off track. Because as entrepreneurs, you can let yourself off.
Absolutely.
But the moment you say, like at some point in 2009, 2010, I thought, I'm bigger than just the UK. And for me, my next level is world class, only world class. That's led me to speak all over the world, in South Africa, in Ghana, in America, all over Asia, all over Europe. Because that's a decision. Now, if you decide you want to be world class, can you do that on your own?
No.
Exactly.
It's impossible.
So you look for the resources, look for the help. So that's what I did. I looked for the coaches to help me and supported me to do that. And so people listening right now, what's your next level of elevation, of success? What's your next level? And it's hard to do that on your own, but look for the help, look for the resources that will help you to get there.
Wow, this has been enlightening, this conversation so far. I'm really enjoying it so far. In terms of speaking, I think you've spoken in how many? Is it 50 countries?
Over 50 countries now. 50
countries. That's a lot of countries.
Yeah.
Wow. And different time zones and lots of different people. What makes it stimulating, because it's easy to maybe get bored of repeating the same thing again and again and again, but you love helping people.
Yeah.
So would you say the key to successful, enjoyable public speaking is the desire to help and transform people?
Yeah, for me, when I decided that my God-given purpose on this planet is to inspire, educate, and empower people to live a life of joy, courage, passion, and purpose. Yeah. The more I do that, the more alive I feel. When I'm not doing that, I feel there's something's missing. Yes, I have different businesses, and the businesses are good. We make good money. Yeah. But I love helping people. That's why I write books. That's why I do the podcast. That's what, for me, it's the inspiration. So where a lot of people get nervous to go on stage, for me, it's not about me. So I don't get nervous. It's about the people I'm trying to help. And if it resonates with you, grab it. If it doesn't resonate with you, someone else might resonate with you. You might resonate with someone else rather. And so for me, it's something that I love doing. I'm supposed to be doing. And it's purposeful, if I can say that.
Yeah. Purpose-driven life, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're looking at doing conferences and business summits eventually in the near future. Are there any events that you got coming up just in general, or are there events you're going to be speaking at in Ghana? Or I am looking at speaking more in Africa, in Ghana as well. And so wherever I'm invited, I will, if it makes sense and it makes sense in my schedule and it fits in with what I'm doing, then I will. This year, again, many countries. What we did in Africa, we did a couple of events in South Africa. We did Kenya as well. Yeah. That was eye-opening. First time I've spoken in Kenya. Yeah. Great place, and people are hungry for that level of information. So if people have got events they run in and they're looking for a good speaker around wealth creation, business development, personal development, I can certainly help. Absolutely. I mean, we'll definitely, plug all your details in the description below in terms of how people can invite you over to speak, if it makes sense, and how people can work with you one-on-one, group coaching, etc. What else? One thing I also wanted to say is, in terms of what you're doing, like what's the next level? Is it just going to be speaking, coaching, and of course you've got businesses, you've got a real estate portfolio, I take it. Is there something that you're thinking of doing in terms of your next steps?
Yeah, I think from the real estate side, because we've been doing this for over 24 years, we'll continue developing and building properties around London. We're looking at other parts of the world as well. Yeah. And so we'll continue doing that. Yeah. Because it's a great model. We understand it, my wife and I. We've got a great team that makes that happen. So we're still looking for more land we can build on here in London. So if anyone or buildings that need to be converted, let us know. Reach out and let us know. We're more than happy to look at that or partner with whoever. Mm-hmm. From the education side, I'll continue doing that because that is me. I'll do that. I can't see whenever I'll stop that, because helping other people to get what they want is for me so fulfilling that when I meet someone in a few months' time, or I meet them in a year's time when I go back to that country and they tell me these are the results we're getting now, and this is what's happening. Yeah. And also at times people, I hear from, I told you about the couple who were going to shut down their business. Yeah. They came to my event. I've had people, I see them in a few months' time and they say, you don't know this, but when I sat in the audience, I was about to end my life. Ooh. Oh yeah, I've had a lot of that. Where people are just about to give up, but because now I get them thinking differently and realize that it's not your fault. I've been there. I sat there in the car one evening, 5 minutes from home, having this breakdown and thinking I'm such a failure. I've been there where it hurts. It's like when nothing's working for you and you're doing everything you can. And when people tell me they're about to end their life, but because of the words I said, it saved them and it's given them a second chance, a new lease of life. So that's when I realized I've got to continue doing this. It's not just about the money, it's about the impact on people's lives. It's about helping people not to get into a divorce, about people's own mental health because of the business didn't go the right way, there are other ways, there's ways around it. So if you're struggling in one area of your life or your business or whatever, reach out to people, reach out to whoever, whether it's a coach or a friend, and have that discussion. Because sometimes as people, we don't want to admit that we're going through a hard time.
Yeah.
But there are people who will, find people who you can trust, people you can confide in, and let them support you.
That's such remarkable advice. Wow, honestly. I think humility is very important, and not allowing pride to be a block of your success. Yeah. And would you say also, you can't be an effective coach if you haven't been through it yourself, like doubling your revenue, getting out of the business situation, etc. Of course, you said you're almost £100,000 in debt and you've turned it around and now you're very successful. So being successful, going through it yourself is almost impossible to be a coach if you haven't done it or achieved it yourself. Well,
it depends what type of coaching there is. Like I said, there is sometimes people mistake coaching for mentoring or mentoring for coaching. Yeah. A good mentor who's been there and done it can say to you, you can consult, you can speak to them and they'll say, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
A coach, however, doesn't necessarily have to have been there, but they know which buttons will get you there. And they've done it for so many other people.
Yeah.
So for example, who's faster? Roger Federer's coach. I mean, so who's better at tennis? Roger Federer's coach or him?
Yeah,
he's good. But the coach will see things. Who's faster? Usain Bolt's coach at the time, or coaches, or him? He's fastest man in the world, 9.85, whatever it is. But they see things that they can pinpoint. Same as there are some business coaches who can look at your business. They haven't built your type of business, but they can see from the numbers, they can see from the balance sheet, they can see from the profit and loss, some things that you need to tweak, and they can guide you back on. So often people say as a coach, if you're coaching someone, that means you have been there. Not necessarily, but you have to know what you're doing. As a mentor, definitely. If you're mentoring, so if someone says, Matt, can you help me to start speaking around the world? I've been there. I can show you exactly what to do. I've been doing it for nearly 20 years, right? But if I was coaching you to do it, now we're going to take some serious actions. It's not me just telling you. It's like, okay, what are it's about action at the end of the day. That's what often you'll be paying for.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you for clarifying the differences between the mentor and the coach. I think it's important for everyone to understand that and to not to get that confused. But one thing I can definitely take from this conversation is the importance of having both where possible, and how important that is for your business and what it is you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Matt, this has been a fantastic conversation. Where can everyone learn more about mind-space coaching and connect with yourself?
Yeah, sure. I mean, but you can go to macattram.com. So you go to macattram.com. And here's the thing, there's a free thing on there as well. If you're in business and you want to figure out if your business is working or if there's any kind of struggle, I've created a free business quiz. It takes 3 minutes. But when you do that quiz, it emails you a report, or you can actually get a report straight away that says, okay, based on your answers, you better start focusing and fixing this area of your business. Otherwise, it will be detrimental for you. But yeah, people can find me. They can send us messages through the macattram.com, do the quiz, but I'm also all over all the socials. So people can find me on all the socials.
Perfect. We'll link out all the socials in the description below, whether you listen on YouTube or the podcast players. You can also head over to the soundofaccra.com/Mac and get all of the resources, tips, and the links from today's discussion. Any final words you want to leave listeners with, and any announcements you want to make?
Yeah, thanks. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me here.
Pleasure.
And essentially, the work I do from the education space is, if you don't know the answer, there are people who will support you. So don't feel alone. And I think every human being is born with huge potentiality. And it's down to us to discover what that potential is and move from being an acorn to a massive oak tree. And if you're on that cycle heading towards that and it's not going well, reach out for help, get some support. Because if you feel it inside of you. A lot of your listeners, I'm sure, maybe they get inspired at times, and also sometimes they take action, or sometimes something stops them or holds them back. Figure out what that is and get help so you can live your full potential.
Wow, that's huge. Thank you so much for sharing that. So that's it, guys, for today. We'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks so much for listening. Take care. Hey, Global Ghanaian citizens. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Now, if you want to get more updates from podcasts like this, including finding out about the latest news, events that we got coming up, and so much more exciting things, please check out our newsletter. I'll encourage you to sign up in the link in the description below, or just head over to thesoundofaccra.com/newsletter. You'll be able to sign up on our website. Thank you for watching to the end, and I'll see you in the next episode.